What's up, guys? Kevin Cage back with another cryptocurrency update. Hope all is well. Be sure to pay attention to this entire video. Today we're going to be reviewing Jed McCaleb and going over some of his answers to a recent interview, and I feel that it is very telling on where this space ends up. For full disclosure, yes, I do own some XLM. I do subscribe to the notion that they could potentially be brother and sister currency, wholesale and retail, silver and gold. I'm just not willing to only hold one asset in the space. To each of their own, all right? And I do like the technology of XLM, and yes, I've done my research on this asset for several years as well. So why is this interesting with Jed McCaleb? Well, specifically, just remember, he co-founded Stellar, he's the CTO of now, but he also founded and served as CTO of Ripple until 2013. He was one of the OGs. He was there with Arthur Brito, David Schwartz, Chris Larson since the very beginning in its inception. Notice even on XRParcade.com, they have the Ripple timeline here. This is all linked and dated if you want to go to sources, and you can see. Even 2011, notice Jed McCaleb pushed the first commit for the XRP Ledger validator. Jed McCaleb, David Schwartz, Arthur Brito created the XRP Ledger. We have when XRP was created, and then we also have Chris and Jed co-founded the corporation OpenCoin. Notice, and then the Ripple Payment Network and Exchange Network. All right, and then the XRPL went live in December 2012. So something to pay attention to. And yes, I am aware that Jed McCaleb supposedly has some very powerful family ties to, the Fed and some other powerful families that we know. Whether it's conspiratorial or not, I just believe in the technology. I'm looking at the fundamentals, looking at the connections of the company, and I think that that alone speaks volumes. All right, so before going over this interview, I found it really, really good, and I'm excited to go over this with you guys. I wanted to touch on this. So in that recent debate, if you guys have seen it already, with Bitlord versus Sam I Am over XRP, yes, I thought it was really entertaining. I'm happy Sam just answered every question. If anything, it just made me more certain in XRP. Bitlord didn't really comprehend anything that Sam was talking about. He didn't really bother to do any research understanding the current banking system, whereas Bitcoin and some other altcoins and DeFi, it's great in theory, and I think that DeFi will massively succeed. I think when all is said and done, XRP and XLM, those that are building technologies to bridge to the traditional and try to get us there first, are going to be those assets that ironically contribute the most to this space. And I know a lot of people don't believe it, a lot of anarchist viewpoints or Bitcoin lovers, but that is just going to be the truth of how this works, because you're trying to build new modern technology, and we have traditional finance that wasn't updated in 40 years. And these groups like Stellar and Ripple are building bridges to bridge these gaps, whereas DeFi, they're just building cool products, but nobody can use them yet. So you have to build the actual interoperability first. And that is why I'm just betting big on the hundreds of $1 million that are invested into these guys doing all of the hard work in laying the rails and infrastructure. Okay, so a few connections. Again, Bitlord said this was a secret document. It's really hard to find. If you literally just type in Ripple Valuation Framework, it should be the first thing that pops up. Notice this is something you guys can look at. Susan Athey and Robbie Mitchnick. He left Ripple and is now VP of BlackRock, head of blockchain. No coincidence. Susan Athey, we know, extremely educated woman. She also was on the participant list of the Bilderberg Group in 2013. If you understand how big that is, you would understand that she is not a nobody, that is for sure. Notice Robbie Mitchnick, blockchain lead for BlackRock. BlackRock also, notice on his LinkedIn, you can see this as well, strategy and product marketing. And he was in a recent podcast a few months ago. I think I went over on this channel as well. Super, super enlightening to hear about where they see crypto assets going. Well, who is BlackRock? I know many of you know. BlackRock is the world's largest asset manager with $7.4 trillion in assets under management. So no small feats. And yes, they have a blockchain lead that was from Ripple. All right, so you can look at this valuation framework. You can literally type this in if you'd like. They just talk about the high and low value of XRP. They talk about Bitcoin, and they measure maybe XRP at $6 to even $32 with certain market dominance, just to show an example. And keep in mind, with even recent algorithmic stablecoins and reserve requirements and all this occurring, I don't think people really understand what the multiplier effects could be. Trying to speculate on the future price of XRP is just like trying to speculate on, what social media was before the internet came to be. So just keep an open mind, and the sky is the limit, hero or zero. So Martin Volk, thank you, sir, for tagging me this or sending this to me, and let's get into it. So first things first, Jed McCaleb. So a few ones that I highlighted and I just want to talk about is this. Do you think that the current DeFi, and again, this is decentralized finance hype, is an example of people getting caught up in not understanding the fundamentals of the various protocols? Well, he says, I don't want to knock all of DeFi. There are some good things, but there is a lot of basic stuff that crypto needs to get done right before a lot of that makes sense. I like that, makes sense. Right here, do you think that the marriage of the traditional sector and the crypto sector is a good thing to grow this space? It's a necessary thing. I don't think there's another route really. There's obviously some people that will just jump straight into holding Bitcoin. Again, that doesn't really solve the issue. But to get mass adoption, you need a way that people can use the currency that they're used to using, like dollars or euros or pesos, in this crypto manner. Remember, with XLM, you can utilize these currencies in parallel. With XRP, you can do the same type of concept. They're not trying to replace and get rid of the dollar, euro, peso, renminbi. These currencies are simply going to interoperate with it. XLM, XRP, they're going to be invisible underlying protocols for all of this. That is how I see this taking place, in my opinion. If you think that the dollar is going to disappear entirely, respect, but I wholeheartedly disagree. Right here, do you think that the pandemic has highlighted some of the benefits of cryptocurrency over fiat currencies over the past few months? And yes, I basically, as we can see, these fiat currencies are going to become digital CBDCs. This is good. Notice that for XRP, these CBDCs are complementary. They can both help each other, and yes, it expedites different parts of this process for payments. Notice, I think so. Obviously, there's the whole inflation issue where countries like the US had to print a lot of money just to alleviate some of the pain that's been caused by the pandemic. I understand the reasons why they're doing it, but for the people that are holding dollars, it obviously weakens the dollar. Also, highlighting the benefits of a fixed supply like Bitcoin, lumens, gold, anything like that. All right, pay attention to that. It absolutely means something there. Notice as time goes on, do you believe that the projects that don't actually have a use case will start to drop out? Me personally, absolutely. That's what I mean. I would think that that would happen, and ultimately has to happen. Hopefully, once things start to be used, it will be clear what makes sense and what does not. All right. One question I got from Tim Ferriss, if you guys know him, he's also a very popular author that I subscribe to. He asks people what their favorite mistake was. Do you have a favorite mistake? I've made a lot of mistakes. Let's see. I never should have sold Bitcoin. And for me, I am basically applying that to any asset that I believe in that has a lot of underlying potential. If you guys can read between the lines. Wink, wink. All right. And the last question before we move on right here, and I do agree with his response regarding regulation, not necessarily needing more regulation, but we need clarity. We need to understand specifically what are the rules in the space so that innovators can actually innovate. Notice, talking with people in the crypto space, I found that there are varying attitudes towards regulation. I've talked to people who think the government is trying to kill them, as well as people who think regulation helps minimize pain in this space. Where do you fall? He goes on to say, and sorry if I sound like I'm reading like a 5-year-old, there's like little typos and prepositions added everywhere. I would just hope that to the extent that there is regulation, they just keep as light a hand as possible, because that's really stifled a lot. The lack of certainty. Interesting. So what there really needs to be is not so much regulation, but clarity. Because it takes away from, so we do need regulation because it takes away from the uncertainty, and I agree with that. But they, referring to the regulators, can also say, hey, this stuff is regulated, or hey, this stuff is or in this category, and then we're fine. Where there really needs to be done is not so much regulation, but clarity. That would go a long way to making more legitimate people get involved and just allowing people to do things that they are scared to do or were too unclear before. Now, this goes into my next point on an article of Finextra. I believe I saw I Am Legion also share this as well. So right here, investors to increase allocation to crypto assets. Yes, I wholeheartedly believe this is going to happen. We're talking right here, according to research from crypto asset insurance firm Avertas, however you say it, Avertas. More than a quarter, 26% of pension funds, insurers, and family offices are expected to dramatically increase their level of investment in crypto assets over the next 5 years. The research has also found that a further 64% anticipate a slight rise in allocation. Well, yes, the dollar printing has shown just that with limited supply. And obviously, as this crypto market starts to actually act as a true hedge and you actually see price appreciation, it will capture a lot of attention. So if you subscribe to the notion that all of these assets, XRP, XLM, Bitcoin, are all going to go up slow and steady from actually utility or maybe some DeFi projects, well, it's going to capture a lot of attention. And now we already have some regulation where banks can custody. We have the Volcker rule coming in October. I think that once it starts, it might really actually start. The dominoes might be falling. So the longer that we stay at this base, the longer that prices are obviously suppressed, is the longer that I actually entertain the idea of some very quick rises. Just like in 2017, 2018. Yes, you go through a 2-year, maybe even 3-year bear cycle, and then boom, the bull run is explosive, short, and fast. But in this ecosystem, it might be rather consistent because I think that we are truly entering a new paradigm. And that is just my belief. Could I be wrong? Absolutely. I'm still the same idiot that thought we were finally going to begin the bull run like 2 months ago. And then all of a sudden, whoop, then I realized, and Chris and everybody, we all saw, we're going down again. So remember the famous quote in crypto, just one more dip. That's what I like to say. So right here, a lack of adequate insurance for crypto assets market is clearly top of the list of concerns for many institutional investors, which is perhaps not surprising when insurers are only providing capacity around $2 billion for a market that is worth between $250 billion and $300 million. Perhaps it's supposed to be billion. See all these typos, guys? Ridiculous. But again, if things are not insured, the big boys are not going to put a penny into this asset. And that's exactly what I'm sharing. But just remember, we have some of the biggest asset funds, these managers in the world, with BlackRock, all focusing on this. We can look at Visa, MasterCard, look at their platforms, etc. You see where this is going. You know you are in the right asset class. Ignore the price. If you were looking at current price, you are not going to be a successful investor. You focus on the long term, the fundamentals, and you understand what you hold. Hope you enjoyed. Let me know your thoughts down below, and I will see you in the next video.